E. Jean Carroll should go to prison.
Mr. Reagan.
I get up around noon and I stagger outside out this door and I throw open my arms and I thank God I don't have children. You can't think in New York if you're dating 16 people, which I would be doing if I were in New York. I like getting up at noon. Oh, we do not want to look at our emails. That was a bad idea. Oh. I call it the Mouse House because some very distinguished mice live here. Kahneman lives in the kitchen, Tversky lives in the bedroom. This is my shed. On the door are the lists of my dogs. Marky, Fortuna de la Spunky, Heidi, Tits, Bloody, and Hepburn. The streams and the rivers were dry, and it so horrified me that I came out and started painting the rocks blue to indicate that there was once a river here. And then after I got done painting the rocks, I just sort of walked over here and then did that tree and then did that tree and then I did this tree. And then pretty soon I'd done this whole forest. Eat, drink, and be merry. That's it. That's my advice.
This is the woman that the Democrats believe has credibly accused Donald Trump of sexual assault. E. Jean Carroll acts like a loon, but what she's doing, it really should be illegal. I think it is illegal, right? Falsely accusing someone of a crime, that is illegal. E. Jean King should be arrested, she should be tried, and she should be convicted of falsely accusing Donald Trump. Falsely accusing a man of sexual assault can destroy a man's life. And such false accusations should result in consequences for the accuser, consequences as significant as a sexual assault conviction.
Before I walked into court, that judge decided that every single defense President Trump had, we were not allowed to raise in front of the jury. It is in writing, and I encourage the journalists, the real journalists, to take the minute to look at his orders. There was no DNA. My experts were denied. Two of them were denied to come in. They didn't let me bring up that Reid Hoffman funded Miss Kaplan. And you know what we got in there? That my witness, who was her friend, who said that she is a drug addict and the drug addict is herself. That friend, I found out in there, was paid for by Miss Kaplan's firm, and that is disgusting. That is a violation of everything I stand for, and that is why I stand with Trump. We are seeing a violation of our justice system. Ladies and gentlemen, you are not allowed to be stripped of every defense that you have. And imagine a point where a judge tells the lawyer, before your client, the former president of the United States, the leading candidate and obvious nominee for the Republican Party, before he takes the stand to defend himself, Ms. Haba, tell me the questions you're going to ask in open court and tell me exactly what he's going to respond. And then edited my questions, edited the response he was allowed to give. And guess what my client did? He took the stand. He abided by the rules of this corrupt system that I have seen. We will immediately appeal. We will set aside that ridiculous jury. And I just want to remind you all of one thing. I will continue with President Trump to fight for everybody's First Amendment right to speak. Everybody's a right to defend themselves when they are wrongfully accused and to be able to say, I didn't do it. And the behavior I saw in there gave us the most perfect record on appeal. And even if I needed it, which I don't, we were stripped of every defense, every single defense before we walked in there. And I am proud to stand with President Trump because he showed up, he stood up, he took the stand, and he faced this judge. The former president does not live his life in fear, as you've seen every single day. The former president and probably future president will continue to fight for Americans. Thank you very much, everybody.
This whole situation is absolutely crazy. This crazy chick was talked into suing Donald Trump by a nasty Democrat operative, George Conway, and MSNBC has inadvertently exposed evidence the jury is rigged. I'll explain all this in one moment. First, of course, I have to sell you something. If you're trying to navigate market turbulence, why not set course to the Noble Gold Investments safe haven? With global uncertainty looming, your savings and retirement plans are under siege. But there's one asset that has stood the test of time: gold. Unlock the peace of mind that comes with owning gold, the ultimate safe haven. And if precious metals are new to you, Noble Gold Investments will hold your hand through the whole process. They have a team of experts who will guide you every step of the way. Thousands of investors have sheltered their retirement savings with Noble Gold Investments. Don't leave yourself exposed to the markets right now. It's way too risky. With gold at an all-time high and looking to climb further, it's the perfect time. Open a Noble Gold Investments IRA and secure your future with a free gold bullion coin. Act now before it's too late. Call 877-646-5347 and claim your free coin before it's gone. Or visit noblegoldinvestments.com right now. noblegoldinvestments.com, the only gold company I trust. If a man is convicted of sexual assault, he will go to prison. As well, he should. But if a woman falsely accuses a man of this horrific crime, sometimes, most of the time, it seems, these women face no consequences at all. And this makes a false accusation a particularly sinister weapon. If there's no consequence for the accuser, and if the accusation is believed, it means the destruction of the life of the accused. Well then, this is going to be a pretty tempting weapon for opportunistic degenerates with no conscience. And what is a leftist political operative if not an opportunistic degenerate with no conscience? According to E. Jean Carroll, she had no intention of filing a lawsuit against Donald Trump until she was talked into it by George Conway, a leftist political operative and an opportunistic degenerate with no conscience.
You actually helped get the ball rolling on this case. Can you just walk me through how that happened?
Yeah, I mean, what happened is that I met Jean Carroll by chance, and she came up to me. I said hello. Immediately, I mean, it popped into my head, well, you've got a pretty good defamation claim here. The statute of limitations on the rape has run. But there's no question that if the rape happened, and it seems like you have corroborating evidence, it did, well, he's liable to you because he's called you a liar. And then I said, I think I know the right lawyer for you. And the next day, I contacted my good friend Robbie Kaplan, and that's how it all got started.
And of course, that is still her attorney who was there in the courtroom
Absolutely.
with her today.
She's a marvelous lawyer.
You remember Christine Blasey Ford? Remember her accusation against Judge Kavanaugh? If you don't remember, the accusation was, and I'm not joking, that when Kavanaugh was a teenager 40 years ago, he pushed Ford onto a bed at a party, played music loudly, and then wrestled with a friend. And Christine Blasey Ford claims that she was concerned that Kavanaugh might assault her. The accusation was not, he assaulted me. It was, he was roughhousing, and I thought that he might do something bad. That was the entire accusation. Now, Kavanaugh had no recollection of these events, and he didn't even remember the woman. And yet, every Democrat voter in the country was 100% convinced that this guy was a sexual predator. The relentless verbal assault went viral, and it actually made Kamala Harris famous. Kamala Harris is currently acting as the Vice President of the United States of America because of a false accusation of perceived potential sexual assault that never happened.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your courage, and I want to tell you I believe you. I believe you.
Now, of course, we see this again with Trump, accused by the batshit crazy E. Jean Carroll. And let's not mince words. E. Jean Carroll is a lying, psychopathic bitch.
There is no us, you psychopathic bitch.
Her initial accusation was insane.
I think most people think of as being sexy.
The entirety of the judicial proceedings were rigged against Trump in that case, and now we're here again. The other day, MSNBC reported on the jury selection, and to literally no one's surprise, it's rigged. It looks like somebody has coached hyper-left-wing Trump-hating activists on how to get selected to be on the jury.
So, Chris, we just finished with the selection of a jury of 9 people. One of the things that struck me about the jurors who were just selected is how non-specific they were about their media consumption. Judge Luke Kaplan, who's presiding over this trial, has a battery of routine questions that he asks to prospective jurors. And the last one is, where do you get your news from? And what I saw today suggests to me that all of the people who were assembled in the courtroom, irrespective of what political biases they may have brought in the door, they all wanted to be here because when they were asked, where do you get your news from? Most of them said things like, I'm news agnostic, or I get it from the internet. I see it on my phone apps, places like Apple News. Very few of the prospective jurors answered those questions with specific outlets like the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. That suggested to me you got a number of people back there that are highly motivated to serve in this trial for whatever reasons, but they didn't want to leave, which is not what you usually see. You usually see lots of people who don't want to be in jury service. They'll come up with any excuse possible. That's not what I saw here today.
Now, what's more is that it was reported the other day by Business Insider that the judge in this trial, Judge Kaplan, removed one potential juror just for being a Trump supporter. The article reads, as jury selection begins Tuesday in E. Jean Carroll's second defamation case against former President Donald Trump, Judge Lewis Kaplan asked prospective jurors a question. Did any of them believe the 2020 election was stolen from Trump? A man in a red sweater, jury number 68, raised his hand. He and another woman were the only two of the roughly 6 dozen prospects in the New York courtroom who raised their hands. Jury 68 was also the only person among the prospective jurors who said that he had attended a Trump rally. He was quickly booted, however, after the judge asked whether anyone in the jury box felt that Trump was being unfairly treated by the U.S. court system. Don't you dare believe that the judicial system is any way unfair. If you believe that, then you can't possibly be on a jury. It's almost like he doesn't understand the irony of that. Do you think that this courtroom is unfair? You do? You're out. Like that in itself is unfair. Anyway, Kaplan dismissed him shortly after, meaning the former president likely lost one of his best jurors in the second Carroll defamation trial. All right, so Donald Trump has posted to his Truth Social page a bunch of E. Jean Carroll's old Facebook posts. This chick talks about sex more than anyone I have ever seen. And let's look at some of these, posts. She posts here, this is how I picture Brad Pitt after we have sex. And the video is apparently 3 minutes of Brad Pitt laughing so hard that he cries. She writes here, sex tip I learned from my dog. When in heat, chase the male until he collapses with exhaustion and then jump him. She writes here, would men have invented chastity belts, veils, or Crocs if women weren't just unbelievably hot? Honey, you were born to seduce. She writes here, there's no such thing as a slut, only sexual geniuses. In this post, she writes, everything interesting on Twitter is about sex. And finally, how do you know your unwanted sexual advance is unwanted until you advance it? Curious. And so then Donald Trump posted, just for the irony, I think, and to show that maybe E. Jean Carroll has a Donald Trump fixation, he posted a Facebook post from E. Jean Carroll from 2012 in which she writes, I am a massive Apprentice fan. Of course you are. Of course. It is strange that she's a massive fan of a show starring a guy that allegedly sexually assaulted her. I mean, I've never had that experience myself. I've never been sexually assaulted personally, but I assume that had I endured something like that, I probably wouldn't want to watch my attacker's TV show. And I certainly wouldn't be a massive fan. I mean, I feel like that post alone should exonerate Trump in each of these cases. So look, let's go back to that first case, because I don't know if you remember this, but E. Jean Carroll stole her sexual assault story from an episode of Law and Order.
Did anyone want to role play a rape with you in a public place?
Yes, there was one, a bit plain, and it was not her fantasy, it was mine.
Okay.
Yeah. Role play took place in the dressing room of Bergdorf's. While she was trying on lingerie, I would burst in.
Hold on. Man. Say you were in Bergdorf Goodman.
I was coming out of Bergdorf's. I was coming out, and he was coming in. He was standing out, and he put his hand like this. He said, come advise me. I want to buy a present. Shortly after that, he said, I know, lingerie. A dressing room door was open, which is very unusual because usually they're locked. And the attendant comes and locks it, escorts you in, etc. Okay, so let's go in the dressing room. And the minute I was in there, he shut the door and pushed me up against the wall and bang my head.
Again, this alone should exonerate Donald Trump. I mean, Sure, it's not proof that she made the story up, but it sure as hell should put some kind of serious doubts into the mind of the jurors. All right, look, when you take everything into account, all of the ridiculous things here in these cases, the only reason that Donald Trump would be found guilty of any of the charges against him would be in the case of a rigged trial, if all the jurors just hated Donald Trump and, they wanted their pound of flesh. And I think in this case, both of these things were true. And let me just throw one more clip in here just because I think it's funny.
Okay, then you go on to say in the statement, and while I am not supposed to say it, I will. Why were you not supposed to say it?
Because it's not politically correct to say, read the next, go ahead, that she's not my type. Yeah, because it's not politically correct to say it, and I know that, but I'll say it anyway. She's accusing me of rape. A woman that I have no idea who she is. It came out of the blue. She's accusing me of rape, of raping her. The worst thing you can do, the worst charge, and it's not true too. You're a political operative also. You're a disgrace. But she's accusing me, and so are you, of rape, and it never took place. And I will tell you, I made that statement, and I said, well, it's politically incorrect. She's not my type, and that's 100% true. She's not my type.
When you said in that video that Ms. Leeds would not be your first choice, you were referring to her physical looks, correct?
Just the overall. I look at her, I see her, I hear what she says, whatever. You wouldn't be a choice of mine either, to be honest with you. I hope you're not insulted. I would not, under any circumstances, have any interest in you. I'm honest when I say it. I would not have any interest in.
Okay, so, Anderson Cooper actually criticized Trump very severely for saying this. He was like, this is a really crude thing to say because of the seriousness of the accusation, whatever, crap like that.
Good evening. She's not my type. That is what the President of the United States has just said about the woman who says he sexually assaulted her. She's not my type, which is what one says when a friend tries to fix you up. Not my type. It's not what anyone really says when accused of what amounts to rape. Not my type. That is precisely what President Trump just said, and not for the first time either. She's not my type.
And yeah, okay, I get that it's a sensitive subject, but if you are falsely accused, you don't see this as either serious or sensitive. If anything, E. Jean Carroll deserves vicious ridicule and recrimination. And what leftists really don't understand about what Trump is saying here is that it's actually pretty good evidence that he's innocent. Because this is the natural reaction of an innocent man. You see, the left isn't even considering that Trump might be innocent. They're not even allowing for that possibility. They're not allowing that possibility to enter into their brains. But if you think about it, even for just 1 second, of course, this is what an innocent man is going to say. You attacked this woman sexually. No, I didn't. She's not even hot. And yeah, okay, so I suppose then somebody would turn and say, oh, so you're admitting that you're capable of sexual assault, just not against her, to which you should naturally respond, well, no, but if I were capable of such an evil thing, I certainly would not be targeting her. And okay, maybe that doesn't sound particularly nice, but again, we don't really need to be nice to somebody who is falsely accusing us of assault. I certainly don't think that any man has that obligation. And there's one more point that people may not be aware of. E. Jean Carroll's entire case was secretly bankrolled by Reid Hoffman, a billionaire left-wing activist and mega donor.
Another thing that he and his lawyers have often spoken about is the lack of disclosure about a big Democratic donor funding part of this case. Was there a reason it wasn't disclosed, and did you view this as political in any way?
No, I just completely forgot that he even existed.
All right, now look, it's super obvious that this woman is not credible. But if you are not entirely convinced, let's take a look one more time at that infamous Anderson Cooper interview.
It did not last long, and that's why I don't use the word you just used. I use the word fight.
You don't use the word.
I was not thrown on the ground and ravished, which the word carries so many sexual connotations. This was not sexual. It hurt.
Well, I think most people think of rape as it is a violent assault. It is not.
I think most people think of rape as being sexy.
Let's take a short break.
Think of the fantasies.
We're just going to take a quick break. If you can stick around, we'll talk more on the other side.
You're fascinating to talk to.
All right, well, that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And remember, it's not that liberal friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much that is not so. Good night.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.